This week, we chat to Alienware about the cool stuff they've got coming out this year, including Steam machines. Mike digs through his Videogame Shoebox to find his copy of Street Fighter 2, and Mel goes hunting for beetles and discovers something very different as she plays through Yokai Watch. This is Player Attack. Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this week we've got a stack of Fallout news for you. First up, the latest game, Fallout 4, has been named Game of the Year at the 2016 DICE Awards. The game actually took home 3 awards, including RPG of the Year and Outstanding Achievement in Game Direction, while Bethesda also picked up another gong for Mobile Game of the Year with Fallout Shelter. Other awards were handed to The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt for Outstanding Achievements in Story, Technical Achievement and Game Design, Ori and the Blind Forest for Animation, Original Music Composition and Art Direction, and Lara Croft from Tomb Raider for Outstanding Achievement in Character. Rocket League was named Sports Game of the Year, Hideo Kojima was inducted into the Hall of Fame, and late Nintendo president Satoru Iwata was granted a Lifetime Achievement Award. Anyway, back to Fallout. Germany has surprised everybody by unbanning Fallout 3 some 7 years after the game's initial release. It seems the youth of today are less easily offended, as the troublesome content is no longer classified as harmful to minors from today's perspective, according to the report. And while the unbanning is good news, we're not quite sure why it's happening, so maybe keep your eyes out for a Fallout 3 remastered announcement. But now on to something completely different. When we caught up with Warren Spector at last year's PAX Australia, he hinted that he might be interested in returning to game development as he was inspired by the indie projects people were working on. Looks like he wasn't kidding, he's come back to work on the perfect game. System Shock 3, the long overdue sequel to the game he helped create back in the mid-90s. Spector has taken a little time out to work in the education sector, but once the current semester ends, he'll be jumping into a studio director role at Otherside Entertainment to work on the return of Shodan. And in not completely unrelated news, it looks like there's a Bioshock bundle on the way, with the Brazilian Game Advisory Rating Board posting a reference to something called the Bioshock Collection for PC, PS4 and Xbox One. 2K is keeping quiet on the topic, but nobody is going to be that surprised if it happens.
We Alkari are to rule over every horizon, even yours. It is the will of the Sky God.
I look at your mewling fleet and wonder, who put the cat among the pigeons?
You obtuse piece of flotsam. It was folly to trust you in the first place.
Wargaming's Master of Orion reboot is out now via Early Access, and if you thought some of those voices sounded familiar, you would be absolutely correct. While the game is pretty impressive looking from this side of the screen, it's even more impressive if you peek behind the curtain. Mark Hamill, Alan Tudyk and Michael Dorn are all lending their voices to various alien races, plus Freddy Krueger himself, Robert Englund. And of course, Nolan North and Troy Baker are on board as well, because it's a video game and that's what they do. We'll take a look at Master of Orion in next week's show. In quick news, Dark Souls 3 on Xbox One will come with a special bonus if you pick up a digital version, a fully playable, backwards compatible version of the original Dark Souls that you can play on your new console. You will have to act fast though, it is a limited time offer. And speaking of all things Microsoft, Quantum Break is set to hit Xbox One and Windows PC on April 5, but don't expect to play this one on Steam. Microsoft is locking it down as a Windows Store exclusive, which even the publisher acknowledges might rub a few gamers the wrong way. If you're not sure which platform you want Quantum Break on, pre-order on Xbox One, which will get you a PC copy of the game, as well as copies of both Alan Wake and Alan Wake's American Nightmare. Last year, electronic composer Giorgio Moroder admitted that he was working with Skrillex on a new game based on the Tron movies, which Disney kept very tight-lipped about. Now we know that game is real, as Tron Run R exploded in a bit of a neon blur onto both PC and PS4 last week, with an Xbox One version due out very shortly. It is, of all things, an endless runner complete with light combat and a killer aesthetic. From the world of virtual reality, HTC and Valve have finally priced their upcoming VR headset, the Vive, and if you are hoping for this one to be a cheapie, you're going to be disappointed. That said, the $799 asking price does include the headset, 2 touch controllers and 2 Lightroom sensor boxes, so you can jump right into a virtual environment with 360-degree movement tracking and room scale sensors. The Vive is due out in early April, putting it just behind the Oculus Rift, but still ahead of PlayStation VR, which has a release window of this year. And finally, as a fan of both video games and terror-bad movies, I am pleased to confirm that Capcom and Legendary are working on a sequel to Dead Rising: Watchtower. Dead Rising Endgame sees Jesse Metcalfe return as journalist Chase Carter, with a number of other familiar faces bolstering the ranks. Billy Zane has also signed up as, wait for it, a handsome, cruel scientist who has been hired to find a cure for the zombie outbreak, but who is actually experimenting on the infected. Dead Rising Endgame is due out mid-year, again through Sony's digital service, Crackle. For more information on any of these stories, or to keep up to date with the latest gaming news, head to playerattack.com. But for now, stick around, we've got plenty more still to come.
What's this thing doing out here?
Whoa! There's a creepy ghost inside! I'm not a ghost, I'm a yokai. I'm Whisper, your yokai butler, at your service.
Yokai Watch is Nintendo and developer Level 5's latest efforts in replicating the same kind of success that was brought to video games and popular culture from Pokemon back in the 90s. Utilising the same kind of gotta-catch-em-all mentality, Yokai Watch pits the player in an urban adventure to solve mysteries, help others, and battle against other mischievous yokai. From the get-go, the game's production values are pretty slick. Upon booting the game, an anime intro plays that really sets the fun tone and playful nature of the game. Thankfully, and this is something I was legitimately concerned about, there's a choice between playing as a girl or a boy. When making a game that's designed specifically to capitalise on popularity among kids, the first step is being able to cater to them properly, a misstep that took Pokemon 3 generations to get right. The battle system in Yokai Watch is more hectic than your typical turn-based combat. Your yokai powers actually auto-attack your enemies in up to 3v3 fights, but as the battle continues, your party develops their own Saltimate meter, which brings up a quick minigame like tapping a certain amount of orbs or tracking a circle with the stylus quickly to unleash a stronger and more specialised attack from that character. At first I found this type of gameplay confusing and a little more complex than it needed to be, but after a few battles, it just sort of clicks and becomes something that's actually pretty easy. The only downside is that yokai attacks are incredibly limited compared to the movesets that Pokemon develop as they level up and evolve. And speaking of Pokemon, the gotta-catch-em-all approach of that series makes sense when you pay attention to different elements and attack types each Pokemon belongs to. Mixing and matching parties to suit upcoming battles and trainers is paramount to success and gets the player planning their playstyles and engaging in other aspects of the game, like breeding and evolving. In Yokai Watch, on the other hand, there are over 230 yokai to befriend, and I found it difficult delving into the specifics of what each one needed. And I ended up keeping basically the same parties I had from the beginning, apart from a few moments where I switched to high-level yokai who joined me as the game progressed. The task of befriending yokai is also difficult. Unlike Pokemon, where the player is encouraged to battle using the correct element and attacks to weaken an opponent sufficiently so that the result is a successful capture. In Yokai Watch, the player needs to battle a yokai X amount of times and feed it food to eventually attract it after battles. And the game doesn't make it clear as to how many times a player needs to fight and feed it either. Sometimes one trusted me after 2 battles, while others needed 4 or 5. One other major issue I had within the game was navigating its world map and finding quest objectives. The game is full of various story quirks, such as thwarting a troublemaking yokai's attempts to steal items from NPCs, or causing citizens short-term memory loss. However, the game's map doesn't actually allow for the player to set their own objective markers and will always point to the main quest instead. This made navigating an otherwise well-fleshed out and gorgeous overworld problematic and frustrating. With all that said, the game's sense of place and tone really helped lift the spirit, no pun intended, of the game despite its major drawbacks. The music always had a Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker charm about it, invoking playful and dark themes despite its target demographic. The game does well to touch on aspects of gaming and culture to provide an experience that relates to young people in an engaging and fun way. This series has proven to be an enormous success in Japan since its release in the mid-2013, to the point that its second anime film's release topped the box office charts over Star Wars Episode 7. There's an anime series on Cartoon Network, movies in the pipeline to release in the West, and an entire toy line complete with actual yokai watches and medals for kids to collect. but sadly, the game itself has a lot of shortcomings. Despite this, there's loads of fun to be had with Yokai Watch's story, battle system, and suburban exploration. He's hoping the second game, when it's eventually localised and released, will make for a much smoother and streamlined experience.
There is so much more to learn about yokai, but some things you'll just have to discover on your own. Good luck, Nate. You're going to need it. See you all in the funny and mysterious world of Yokai Watch.
Hi, I'm Jessica Citizen from Player Attack. We're here at PAX Australia. I'm with Joe from Alienware. We are talking all sorts of hardware things that are on show here today, but the big one, Steam machines. They're real, they're actually happening, and you guys have got one.
Yes, we actually have, for the first time in the Southern Hemisphere, the Alienware Steam machine here in our booth. It's real, it's here, come by and play with it. We also have the Valve controller, so you can see what all the buzz is all about. So it's actually running here in the stand.
So for people who don't know what a steam machine is and think it might be something to do with a kettle or an old-fashioned, locomotive, what is a steam machine? What is the Alienware steam machine specifically?
Sure, the Alienware Steam machine is, most PC games are served through Valve's Steam platform. The Steam machine is a console version of that platform that allows you to play in your lounge room. So we have 1,500 titles available. You probably already own them in your Steam catalog, so you don't have to repurchase them. And it brings a PC gaming experience to the lounge room without requiring a keyboard and mouse. And it's really, in our opinion, going to change the way that people think about PC gaming.
And so this is the sort of thing where normally, while we're in Australia, we hear about this cool new hardware and it's awesome and it's coming to America by the end of the year. How long are we going to have to wait before we can get our hands on a local one that we don't have to buy adapters for and we don't have to mess around and try and configure it properly here?
Sure, that's fair. It will launch in the States November 10th of this year, and it will be available sometime in Q1 in Australia. Valve is working through the final wireless regulatory tape that is involved in that kind of thing, and it'll be available in Q1.
I guess the key thing that we've sort of skimmed over here, what makes the Alienware Steam machine different to the other ones on the market? I know that Valve's been working with a number of manufacturers.
Oh, I didn't realize there was another one out there. But really the thing about our Steam machine, it's purpose-built to do just that. We built it with the living room in mind. We built it so it's very, very small. It's under 2 liters, or just over 2.2 liters. So it's very small in your living room space. It also has living room ports. So on the back, you'll have an SB-diff port to hook into your speaker system, HDMI, and USB. So you don't have to worry about all the different PC connectors that you would normally on a PC. We made it extremely quiet. It's something that can sit idle in your lounge room all the time, and no one's going to be upset that there's this overly noisy PC. So it really does kind of blend in, and unlike some of our other products where we have a lot of lighting effects, we have a very small, very simple lighting package on this. Again, we designed it to be in the living room first and foremost. The other difference is when we set out to build this product, we had the goal of being 1080p, which is your standard television, and be 60 frames a second. So we even went out to NVIDIA and worked on a custom GPU with them that would allow us to deliver that message in such a small form factor. So that's why mine's better.
That's not the only thing you guys are showing off here. We're actually standing underneath some explosions and shooty bang bang stuff. What's going on upstairs right now?
Well, so everyone has heard of VR. Everyone has heard of VR from Oculus, and certainly there's HTC and Valve. But there's a local company here in Melbourne called Zero Latency. And what they've done is they've taken the Oculus DK2 dev kit, and they've taken our Alpha, which is the Windows version of the Steam machine, and you strap it onto your back, and now you're in a free roam virtual reality experience in a warehouse killing zombies with 5 of your friends. So they've removed the cable from the experience. So it really is a great new way that we hadn't thought of back in our office, we never thought of strapping batteries to a backpack to a desktop. But these guys figured out a way, and we love to show it off. And it is available here at PAX, and it's also available for anyone in Melbourne, or really anyone from Adelaide or Sydney who come to Melbourne. So
this is the sort of thing that when we were kids and we all thought about VR, and it's the new version of laser tag.
It really is a new version of laser tag. It's almost like being on the holodeck, because you're just walking around. So if you're watching everyone do this, it looks kind of weird. But I've done the game, and it's a lot of fun, and you're just running around with your mates just all over the place, and it really is the future of VR.
And what else have you guys got going on here? Because there's still more stuff from Alienware here at PAX.
Yep. So Intel just recently came out with some new processors, the Skylake generation. All of our notebooks and desktops have been updated. We've added Thunderbolt to our notebooks. We added a new feature that we call dynamic overclocking. So in all of our notebooks, if there's thermal headroom in whatever you're doing, the system will automatically overclock to take advantage of it. So that way you're always fully 100% utilizing the system. You can turn it off too and go in and tweak it yourself, of course, because at heart we're all gamers and we all want that ultimate control. But it also takes out the guesswork, so it's always running the CPU-GPU combinations as fast as they possibly can. We also have a new desktop. Well, we don't have a new desktop. Our X51, which is quickly becoming the esports choice. It's small enough to fit in a backpack and take to your LAN event or to your tournament. But we've also updated it. We've added liquid cooling to that. We've added unlocked K processors as well. So that also has Intel's new Skylake technology. We've added PCIe SSDs, DDR4 memory, of course all new CPUs, liquid cooling. So we've added over 24 new features in this latest launch. We have the GTX 960 available in that now as well.
Everything's just getting smaller and faster with you guys, isn't it?
It does, unless you want to talk about our big desktop, which of course is the Area 51. It takes up to 375 watt graphics cards. If you've got the room to have a 30 kilo box underneath your desk, I highly recommend it. I got to tell you, we offer a lot of value to our customers, in my opinion. But the one thing that certainly I've found is, as a gamer, because I used to build my own as well, is that time is such a precious commodity, and having someone else that I can rely on to fix the problems, or the one person I can call and go, this doesn't work, I find that to be so valuable in my life now. So, but the DIY community, it's how we all got here.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Videogame Shoebox. I'm Mike Notridge. Street Fighter II is one of the most popular fighting games of all time. Originally released in 1991, people were wowed by the outlandish characters, their special abilities, and the location in which they were throwing down. And the music. The music was, and still is, especially fantastic. It was also the start of a trend that Capcom continues to this day, as Street Fighter II had several different versions released, adding new game speed options, the ability to earn extra points by performing combos, difficulty balance changes, and even adding new fighters. This was clearly an approach that worked for Capcom, as it has been their way of doing things ever since, with Street Fighter III receiving a total of 3 releases in Street Fighter III New Generation, Second Impact, and Third Strike, and Street Fighter IV also receiving Super Street Fighter IV, Super Street Fighter IV Arcade Edition, and finally Ultra Street Fighter IV. Capcom claim that this is not going to happen with the 5th installment of the franchise, but let's withhold our judgment until Street Fighter VI releases. The version of Street Fighter II I'm looking at today is the New Challengers, the 4th game in the Street Fighter II sub-series. Originally released on consoles in 1994, the New Challengers lives up to its name by not only providing balance changes and more refined graphics and music thanks to a new engine, the CP System 2, but 4 entirely new characters to introduce in addition to the 12 available in the previous versions. Even though the fighter count rose to 16, the number of matches in the single player mode remained unchanged. In previous versions, you would fight 8 matches, followed by the 4 boss characters. The Grand Masters consisted of Balrog the Boxer, Vega, the claw-wielding Spanish ninja, Sagat, master of Muay Thai, and finally M, or Master Bison, the psycho-powered leader of the evil Shadaloo. More on those guys later though. From the new fighters and onwards, however, the game would choose 8 random fighters from the pool, and then you would fight the 4 bosses in order. So if you happened to be playing in the arcade and only had a single credit and still managed to beat the game, there could have been up to 4 characters that you still hadn't even seen. I understand why it was designed this way, of course, as arcades are invented and designed to drain either your pocket money or your parents stop bothering me for 5 minutes emergency cash, but when it happened to an 8-year-old me, I couldn't help but feel slightly cheated. But the bonus stages where you can beat up cars with your bare hands are still there, so I guess all could have been forgiven pretty quickly for me back then. Take that, stupid car! Now back to those boss characters. With the exception of Sagat, the original Japanese version of Street Fighter II, and every version and new game since, have all had the names changed around for the other 3 masters in the international versions of the games. Balrog, the boxer, was named M. Bison in the Japanese market and was designed to look like real-life former heavyweight champion Mike Tyson. You couldn't really tell mid-fight, but his portrait on the character select screen made it clear that M. Bison and M. Tyson was unlikely to be a coincidence. His name was swapped to Balrog during localization for fear that the likeness might have caused a likeness infringement lawsuit. I doubt Tyson's lawyers would have liked pictures of how he looked after I was done with him ending up in the papers, so Bison became Balrog, the original Balrog became Vega, and the original Vega would become who we know as M or Master Bison. Still hates Sagat though. Look at him, laughing. I'll show you. Well, that's it for this week's Video Game Shoebox, but be sure to tune in next time for another step down memory lane as I dust off some more cartridges. Be sure to let me know on Twitter any games from your childhood you'd like to see on here. I've been Mike Notridge, and I will see you next time. What's in your Video Game Shoebox?
And that's about it for this edition of Player Attack. Thanks for watching. Next week, we become a volunteer fire lookout in the aftermath of the Yellowstone fires of 1988 in Firewatch, and chat to Wargaming about their quest to dominate the galaxy in Master of Orion. In the meantime, you can catch us at playerattack.com. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and if you've got something you want to say, send us an email, mailbox@playerattack.com, or just hop on our forums. Till next week, I'm Jessica Citizen, and this is Player Attack.